idea that all these players are about the same is just ridiculous. And that and they represent a different number based on where they are, who's around them, who's coaching them, what's the system, and so forth, right?
David, you just gave the most beautiful explanation, and I'm the idiot. We're learning, but I didn't record it. I just
Sure.
started recording. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, no, okay.
Can we start over? Do you mind?
Um,
Just
yeah.
just let me know what time you have to be done, and we'll get you done by then. What time you have to be done?
Oh, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Today's a good day.
Okay. Well, I would like to be done, let's say in like at 10 would be great. So we'll do like
Okay,
25 minutes.
great.
Okay. Okay. Starting over. This is a learning experience. Okay, David. So you and I talk a lot about player development, and one of the examples that sticks in my head is Danny Green was once cut by the Cavaliers when they were the worst team in the league, and then swiftly joined the Spurs, then became a starter on a world championship team, multiple world championship winning team. And in that kind of exposes the fallacy that players are kind of ranked 1 to 400 or whatever, or that there's some good way here to draft this one over to that one, because it seems like it's just much more nuanced than that. There's a championship starter in this guy that this other NBA team felt they didn't need at all and let him go for nothing. I'm wondering if you could just talk through what you see there. Like why is such a good player available and so much better on this team than he was on that team?
Yeah. So there's nuance here. It starts with we can talk about the young guys. So Danny Green was a rookie with Cleveland, and he learned how to play. If you look at that part of basketball, if you were in my world, work with clients, the amount of clips we send them when they're young, which is very much about how to play the game,
Mhm.
is different from when they get older, where we can get to very specific development of skill sets or recognitions of things, or this is a better time to use this particular move you've
It's
worked
like
on.
it's like, how many problems do you know how to solve? And at the beginning,
Yeah,
the answer is none, and then later it's like, I got
correct,
a whole encyclopedia, right?
correct, right. And it's for us, it's really lovely to watch the growth of these players. And then it's just a matter of, well, you just don't have the skill to do that, but you see it. Now let's work on the skill to take advantage of it. So in Danny Green's case, he was just learning how to play in the NBA, and Cleveland gave up on him fast. But I want to touch on what something you said, which is the ranking thing.
Mhm,
The
mhm,
ranking thing is seen as permanent when actually it's overwhelmingly fluid.
mhm,
This player is this good right now on this team in this system with these players around him now.
mhm.
Who knows what happens a week from now, a month from now, you from now. Obviously, the better players tend to be consistent no matter what, mostly because the systems revolve around them. But they're a great example. I just looked at them the other day. Andrew Nemhard ranks as a very bad defensive player.
Mhm.
Well, what do you expect? He's got some really bad defensive players around him. They no longer even are trying to win, in my opinion, as you watch them play. And yet he's freaking working his butt off. We know what he can do defensively. And yet next year again, he'll probably be one of the better defenders in the league because the team should be good again. So these things are very fluid.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think fans and media and teams make the huge mistake of assigning a permanent brand to what should be a very fluid brand, and
Mhm.
and not and not are not recognizing with some changes he'll be much better than what he is now. He may improve, but also we may improve at how to utilize him and so forth. Imagine, I mean, listen, I grew up at a time where big men didn't shoot threes. Had Dirk been born 20 years earlier, Dirk Nowitzki would have been a stiff low post player
Mhm.
instead of the guy that he was. And that created all sorts of opportunities for guys like LaMarcus Aldridge and present day Karl Anthony Towns, guys who really aren't great in the paint compared to them as with his shooting talents. And Dirk kind of helped pave that way, I think.
Well, so okay, so, know, circumstances affect performance and, improvement affects performance,
Yep.
but at the same time, like, so this let's say the Spurs maybe are at that time anyway, were, like, above average at recognizing that, but
Yes.
they didn't give every young player the roster spot that they gave Danny Green. They must have seen something in him specifically that they thought they could work with.
Well, I'm glad you put it in a good way. Our old colleague John Hollinger, I remember very vividly. I was living in the home I'm still living in now. He called me one afternoon. You remember John produced? he published that PER of every player in the league and had a thing on a window on every single player. It was
Just an
big,
insane amount of work. Yeah,
right?
like,
And
just
also,
yeah,
if I remember, an insane amount of traffic.
insane amount of traffic, that's probably good, yeah.
He was really great. And he called me. I know exactly where I was when he called me, and he asked me about Danny Green. He's like, I have like three guys I just can't get a foothold on because he washed out in Cleveland.
Mhm,
What do you think of him? And I compared him then to a kind of a sweet shooting Ron Artest. I
mhm,
thought this is just a fucking huge dude,
mhm,
big guy, strong,
mhm.
really could shoot, can really guard, I think, but isn't going to shake you down off the dribble and whatever. But very physical, very tough. I loved him at Carolina, and the Spurs clearly saw what I saw.
Mhm.
They saw, okay, you can't ask him to do. He's not Clay Thompson. Don't you're not going to utilize him as that kind of shooter. Back then, I wouldn't even Clay. But they must have seen a need for defense. This is a
No,
big deal,
they're
right?
always looking for Bruce Brown. They always want the next Bruce Brown in San
Right, right,
Antonio.
right. Bruce Bowen.
I'm sorry, Bruce Bowen, not Bruce
Yes.
Brown, Bruce
Well, there is a
Bowen.
Bruce Brown who was
Yeah, I
very
know that's not helpful for me to bring up at all. Yeah, he
right.
plays for the
Bruce,
Nuggets.
Bruce
Yeah,
Bowen. Yeah.
Bruce Bowen,
Um,
exactly right.
I just was reading the brilliant writer again on the Pacers, Caitlin Cooper, uh, who the Pacers are probably going to have a top four pick. There's a player in the draft named Darren Peterson from Kansas. Amazing offensive player. Doesn't look like he can guard. He's young. He's got to improve on that. Well, if you watch the Pacers play, they need a guy to guard, so Tyrese doesn't have to do it next year.
Mhm.
So every team is these same problems to solve. The Knicks need Josh Hart is super valuable in New York. I'm not sure how valuable he'd be on some other teams
Right.
who have
See,
better, more talented
as
guys.
a Blazers fan, I can promise you, he was like, actually, he's a great example. Josh Hart,
Yeah,
was I don't know, like, he was a little above average in Portland, but then you put him on an elite defensive team and have him guard the best player, and suddenly he's an essential part of a contender.
right. Well, he's a big part of when they were a good defense. He was a big part of it. They were a great offensive team, right? He
Yeah.
kind of helped them. And with the Pelicans, he was okay. I remember talking to an assistant coach of the Pelicans who thought he's going to be a good player. I just don't know if he's going to be good enough for us
Yeah.
because of our issues. Yeah. So there. What do I always say? There are some players, no matter where you put them in their prime, they're going to be amazing. Russell Westbrook, Kobe,
Right.
LeBron. But I think there are far more players that can be amazing in systems that make sense for them, with coaching styles that work for them, and so forth. It's much more of not just fluid, but also there's a variability to it, and players change over time too, and for different reasons, and teams have to accommodate that. And I don't think teams are very good at that. If they teams can play one instrument. This is how we do it. They've got to find the instrument that works for how they go about it instead of being more flexible because players are all different.
So, acknowledging that, like, circumstances can matter and development curve matters, like, what is it really I don't know which example is most comfortable for you without wanting to divulge secrets, but it could be Danny Green or it could be somebody else, but, like, what really happens in, like, the daily nitty-gritty of a life so that someone's going from, you know, unproductive on a bad team to super productive on a great team, like, what's really happening?
I think a lot of times, for lack of a better phrase, they have to be seen,
Mhm.
and players feel that. I was just talking to one of my assistants who does post game clips for me, and he was evaluating. He was a game with a player of mine that's won a lot of like titles, college and so forth. And the player made a move and scored it. And my assistant was telling him, "Hey, I like this is what you did. I like it." And I had to call Pete. I said, He knows what he did.
Mhm.
He's the one who did it, and he's done it a lot, and he's won a lot. Just let him know that you see it."
Mm,
Right? I
mhm.
had a player last night hip check a guy and sent him flying,
Okay.
and the ref didn't call it. And I texted him after the game, like, "I saw the hip check." He's like, "Yeah, that was nice."
I love it.
And he loves that I see it
Yeah, yeah,
because it's not in the box score,
yeah.
right?
There's a
Um,
lot happening in an NBA game. Honestly, it's if you just watch one player, which I know you do all the time, it's unbelievable how much more you see than if you watch the game. right? And just
Because I'm
this
30
"I
years
see
into
you"
that
thing
now.
is a big deal. Yeah.
I'm 30. I'm 33 years into that for high school. I started in '93 for
Yeah.
high school,
Yeah.
and 25 now for NBA. That's exactly right. And so I think to your question, one of the things that's happening with a player when you start having success is I think he feels seen.
Mhm.
Someone of value is witnessing what I'm doing, who determines my playing time and when, not just playing time in the aggregate, but when I'm playing.
Mhm.
Like I pay attention to a guy that's been out of the rotation, suddenly gets in the rotation, and then all of a sudden is getting closing minutes sometimes,
Mhm.
and then consistent closing minutes. That growth, I'm as proud of the coach for letting the player do it as
Mhm.
I am of the player doing it. It
Mhm.
takes two, right?
Mhm.
I have issues with certain coaches in the league who are bad at this. They aren't good witnesses to what's going on and recognizing, oh, this guy's got it. It's just going to take a while.
Mhm.
Right? It's just we have to, as I say to coaches sometime, and I had dinner recently with a coaching staff not too long ago, and I literally had to tell them I have a young player of theirs, just give me time with him.
Mhm.
You guys have to do your part for sure, but it's just you can't snap a finger. This is the world's hardest league to be good in, and it just some guys get it right away. More power to them. I always remind players. I had 5 different players in the NCAA tournament all lose. They're all gone. Fine. None of them, maybe, yeah, probably none of them really expected to be around any more than this week anyway. And I told all of them as a way to try to make them feel better, you're never going to be worse at basketball than you are right now.
Mhm.
Right? You're always going to be better as long as you apply yourself. This
Mhm.
is, and they need to hear that. Like, there's hope here. And it wasn't your fault. None of my players, I think, it was their fault. They lost. They're the best players on the teams. They're NBA prospects, but they're miserable. They lost. And hearing that glimmer of optimism. All right,
Mhm.
it'll be okay. The NBA is not great at that. Thank goodness, by the way.
It's a little bit like family. I mean, like, the way that you watch players is a little bit. I mean, I can't tell you how much time I spent in the stands with, like, a child of mine or
Yeah,
a close friend, like, some I'm sitting with the parents or, somehow you're personally fixated on an athlete on the field,
yeah,
right? And sometimes I've been in a million times as it's like, "Oh, they just not having a good game," right? This happens, and you root for them, and you think about what you're gonna get for dinner after, or how are you gonna hug them, like, whatever, like, what are you gonna say to them? But other times, they solve every problem. And it's so obvious because 'cause we're in this little rooting section for that player that they're just kicking ass. But, like, sometimes, like, I'm thinking about a soccer example, that's 11 on 11. There's
yeah.
so much for the coach to see, right? Like, I guarantee you there are times where, somebody comes in off the bench, just rocks it, solves every problem, and I don't think the coach even really knows, And, like, fine. But, like, this is where I think your career comes in where you can, like, that player would then get to talk to you after the game, and you get to say, "I see you."
Correct. Right. You're exactly right. Listen, the coaches have to follow a lot. I don't.
Mhm. Mhm.
I have more clients than any one college or NBA coach has players. But on that team, in that moment of time, I just have 1 or 2, or in some cases 3.
Mhm.
That coach has to manage 15 or whatever the
Yeah.
number is,
Tough.
10 guys playing and 5 coaches, whatever. And so, yeah, they wanna know that they're seen. I've said to a few coaches, "You'll never know, you'll never see me. I'm not intrusive that way. You'll just notice the results at the end, or I failed, and maybe the player will find someone else to help them." I just coach them up the way we normally coach them up. But the best coaches, that Mark Dagno is the best right now, I think. Man, the players feel seen by him.
Mhm.
I mean, I want my kids to talk about me the way OKC's
Mhm.
players talk about Mark. He just has that magical mix of understanding the game, but understanding people
Yeah.
and showing empathy and spirit and belief, which is a big, big thing. I really can't stress that enough. The problem you and I are solving right now on trying to figure out why our players struggling in some places and then succeeding at others, and not young to old, but I mean like veteran struggling to veteran being good, is so much to do with the spirit that player feels from that coach who knows I can do this. You
Uh,
believe me?
there's another profound thing that affects pro sports and less at other levels, maybe college, but I'm really only aware of it in pro, where the coach of a pro team is wondering the whole time, "Are you good for us?" should we keep you? Right? Like, and because there's an infinite supply of replacements, right? At the NBA level, there's just, I mean, I don't know if you're the 11th player on an NBA team, there might be 5,000 players who are candidates for your job, right? And so and actually this came up a lot in my book with Marcus Elliott and P3. It's like you and Marcus Elliott are completely aligned in that we're working for this guy,
Yeah,
the 11th player, and we're trying to make sure your life is as successful as it can be, which is very that lets you be seen, right? That's very different from the team, which is like, you could be promising Danny Green in Cleveland. It's like, sorry, man, we're just gonna get somebody who's easier for us to manage, right? Whose career is easy. It's like I do think there's like this inherent tension of the league has an infinite supply of talent, which means there's a shortage of people who are truly aligned long term with any one player.
totally agreed. Uh, that is a major part of my business for sure. Um, I just was thinking about I was trying to run through my brain of players that really have been washed up and all of a sudden are resurgent. And I talked to a head coach the other day who he basically told me he really wants to try to get Thomas Bryant.
Mhm.
Well, Thomas Bryant did not play. He was killing it for the Lakers. I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, killing it. But Darvin Ham didn't really give him any belief that it's going to be consistent minutes for you. It made no sense to me. And Mike Malone and Calvin Booth traded for him for Denver. And then very quickly, Mike Malone said, you know what? Was it Reggie Jackson and Thomas Bryant? You're out of the rotation. I'm going to stick with the guys that we had to start training camp, and they won a championship. So now Thomas Bryant's value is nothing, and he's in Miami, not playing at all. He goes to Indiana for a ham sandwich last December. I'm not even kidding. He was the first guy traded.
Yeah.
December 15th, first guy traded was him to Indiana, where he was incredibly valuable for the Pacers. Mind-bogglingly to me, the Pacers decide to not sign him right away. He doesn't have anything. He goes to Cleveland, and that was a very important first big off the bench and playing great for
Mhm. And
teams that
just
were
smiling and hugging
right.
everyone, and, like, he's, like, just radiates sunlight, that guy.
And he's defensively playing his best he's ever played. Someone told me the other day he's one of the better rim protectors, which he's never been that. He's long, but he's never been great at that because he's always been more of an offensive player. Meanwhile, Miami could really use him and could have really used him, but they had Khalil Ware, who I'm also a big fan of.
Mhm.
They have a guy named Bam Adebayo. I heard he's pretty good, could score a little bit.
He might make it, yeah.
Right. So the lesson we always tell our players is you have to have alligator blood. You got to hang around and keep collecting a paycheck and hope something happens. I mean, there's so many stories like that. There's guys that seem like, he's not going to work out. Harrison Barnes is still an important player.
Mhm.
A lot of teams have had him and let him go, and he's just really good for somebody else and somebody else. You have to the confidence is everything for these players. And so, to your point, the variability in the NBA includes, well, whose guy are you? Did the head coach want you? Did management want you? Did ownership push you down the coach's throat, or management do that? These are daily battles.
Mhm.
I always say players need a champion in the room
Mhm.
when it's being decided who's playing, how many minutes are playing, and it better be the right champion. Can't be the wrong champion. It can't be an assistant coach who believes in you, where the head coach doesn't love that assistant coach for whatever reason. The head coach and the management. Remember, I think that's where Calvin Booth and Mike Malone broke up. We talked about this when Gerard was hosting our show, where they won the championship, and Calvin Booth and Mike Malone barely exchanged anything.
Mhm.
I think part of the problem is Mike Malone thought Calvin sucked. Look, I did this all myself. He gave me nobody new because he didn't play Thomas Bryant or Reggie Jackson. I think those
Right.
guys would have helped too, but they won.
Right, right, right.
But it happens all the time. Is whose guy are you? And this all goes to what we're talking about, this phenomenon of a player of the Danny Greens of the world and older who would just finally find their place and excel.
And there's a feeling like, I think, like, look, I'm a fan too. I would love it to be the case that the team was built like a family, and, like, basically, if you're not great year 1, Danny Green in Cleveland, like, Cleveland will take it on, and We're gonna work on getting you to the best you can be. Um, and it could be like that, but it's not because that skill set isn't in long supply, right? I think the Cavs don't really. I'm making fun of the Cavs from however long this is, like going on 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But like, you know, they didn't want to bet on their own player development skills, right? That's not what they're good at because we're 100 years into an infinite supply of players. So like, if one's not working out, it's not really commonly profitable to ignore whoever the next year's Danny Green is, right? Just get that one and see if that one works easier, right? Because then,
Right.
so we have this culture of just like who develops easily, right? Who makes themselves better.
Well, that definitely is a big thing. And I have a high school training business, virtual training business, and one of the most common questions, the guy who runs it for me tells me is a college coach will say, "What? How much work does he put in on his own?" I
Yeah,
think it's a good question. Um, the uh, the league's full of guys who need need spirit, or they don't believe in themselves, right? Um, you just have a lot of situations where uh, the players just feel like I can do this,
yeah.
and they're not questioning themselves. And it's not just from internal. There's an external force being applied that's getting that player to believe, okay, this is where I can really shine.
And it's actually, I went to had a meaningful long walk with a guy who was a former NBA GM, and he was explaining this frustration that the best players have a full staff at home. So like, the team has physical therapists and trainers and personal development people and all this stuff. And and so the player, the highest income players will kind of go through that quickly, and then they'll go home and they have all of those same roles filled with professionals and they shoot in their gym with their skill development guy, and they have their physical therapist and their physical trainer and stuff. And to the GM, this was very frustrating because there's a lack of control there, right? They don't know what you're doing, and they don't. But I think from the player's point of view, I completely get it because you're like, you know, you're you guys don't have a track record of getting my body right, or you don't have a track record of teaching me how to do exactly the things I need to improve in the game because teams aren't great at that. I mean, Marcus would tell you teams aren't great at that in
Right.
physical preparation. You would tell me not great at that in skill preparation, and it's obviously true that teams haven't earned, like, if teams merely earned stars' trust on those things, they'd love to save the money, right? They'd love to not pay you. They love to not pay, um, whatever elite physical therapist is waiting at their house, right? But they feel like they need that.
Correct. Uh, I have two things. One is we talk about messaging. The language that some teams use, many coaches use with players, can work with some guys. And maybe historically, and yet they'll have a guy, they draft him high, whatever, they trade for him, and it just isn't working, and they don't change their messaging. And so here's an example. I had a player tell me getting a lot more dunks. And it was in one of my newer clients this year. And I asked him, like, what's happening? You didn't suddenly get to be athletic. You were athletic before. He said, my coaches use the word get here, get there. He said, you say race. Never heard that before. I'm racing more. All right.
Mhm.
Pretty simple. Right. And, but the other thing I want to mention in this line of thought, as we with the lotteries in a month and a half, whatever, and you read these mock drafts and what ESPN, they all have their own. They're all. I'm sadly to say they're so bad now, for a lot of different reasons that we could talk about some other time. And one of my biggest problems is these writers on these mock drafts who are. I don't care about who they're guessing picks. And I'm not at all judging any of that. It's impossible. Uh, my problem is they write, the Washington Wizards need this, so they draft this guy, that'll solve that problem, as if we're just plugging a hole. Like, what world are you following in basketball where you think there's some kind of automatic, "Oh, we got him, so we've solved that problem." No, you've
Yeah,
just drafted a guy,
yeah.
and in most cases, it doesn't work out very good.
Certainly not year 1. Like,
And exactly what I'm saying.
yeah.
Certainly not in year one.
Yeah.
Like the Cooper Flag now, I think, has a positive rating for the Mavericks finally. But there was a long period of time where this terrible team was less terrible when Cooper was on the bench.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Cooper Flag. He's going to be a many-time All-Star. I'm not ready to say All NBA, but I'm not telling you he can't be. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Impacting winning takes time. You have to learn how to do that kind of stuff.
Like, even if
And
you're on that good production curve, you're gonna have a good career. Your rookie year, you're like 5% of what you're gonna be or something, right?
yeah,
And as you explore the other 95%, you might change your position, you might change who you can guard, you might change your body, like all these things might change, right? So to me, like, this pre-draft idea that we know what you're gonna be, it's like, well, if we know what you're gonna be, you're not gonna be that good, right? Because
yeah,
like when
it's
you
easy to
fully
see.
feel all
Yeah,
your skills out, like, you're gonna be
yeah.
different.
Here's a player I really love. I just saw him play this weekend for the first time. I've read about this guy named Darius Acuff from
Mhm.
Arkansas,
He's a
but
big
I've never
scorer,
seen
right?
him. No, didn't know what he looked like. I knew nothing about him. I didn't watch Arkansas play at all. I watched him this weekend twice, and I didn't know. I was at a restaurant. I didn't. I had volume on. I had other games were on. I just saw one dude from Arkansas continue to score, and I thought that has to be Acuff because that dude keeps scoring.
Mhm, mhm,
And I knew this guy was the SEC Player of the Year as a freshman, by the way. And then I realized, oh, he's Derrick Rose with a jump shot. This guy is
mhm,
fantastic. So how is he not in the top four running?
mhm,
And then you start wondering, well, what happens? Like, what if the Pacers draft this guy? He's not beating out Tyrese Halliburton or Andrew Nemhard. I promise you that.
mhm,
So what's better for his development? Go to the Pacers, where he clearly can learn a six-man role maybe in another year.
mhm,
But this guy could be the best player in the draft. I don't care about what everyone else writes. I'm telling you, this guy could be the best player in this draft. And maybe it's better if he learns to be a six-man at first and has a tighter role on a contender and learns to value all sorts of other things and learns how to win.
mhm,
The very, very important thing that when you hear older players talk about, I know how
mhm,
to win games. There's
mhm,
a lot to that. He may learn that, but I promise you, his people want to go to some terrible team where he can score 20 points a game next year as a rookie, contend for rookie of the year, and lose 55 games. Who cares if he's on a bad team?
Well,
I
that's
think
a mighty battle from, like, the LaMelo Ball's first few years to now, right? Like,
right,
there's just a ton of work in that, and, like, you can start that early.
right. I don't know. There's no one way that's a better way. You
Mhm,
have to manage that and continue to pivot and tweak. For all these guys, that no matter where they go, the Pistons drafted Darko right after a championship,
mhm,
and and I mean I've told you before. For years, I talked to players in the NBA who were teammates his who all thought he should have gone number two.
mhm,
He was that talented, but
mhm,
he was just rotting for Larry Brown's Pistons teams and really kind of lost a lot of what I think made him special to begin with. He was not a bad pick. No matter who they pick, if they didn't need him and the Pistons were champs, this is where the Pacers have been being the only top five draft team possibly. Remember, if they fall number five, they lose their pick entirely to the Clippers. And they're not going to fall below nine because they're one of the two worst teams in the league right now. But they could lose the draft pick. So that's what Detroit had, and they didn't handle it well. Oxygen is the it takes the form of playing time for young players, and what role matters. Losing confidence happens all the time. You have to manage that up. Some coaches aren't great at that. Their high expectations are really never met, and you have to have a certain fortitude about you as a player to deal with that. As opposed to if they don't care if you lose anyway because Ace Bailey just scored I think 37 last night for Utah.
yeah, yeah,
And, all right, that's something. I'm not sure what it means. It means something. He's shown some talent, but, they have to start wanting to win games at some point, and he's have to learn how to win, not just score. This is all part of the growth of a player, whereas maybe he goes to a different team like Neesmith with Indiana from Boston,
mhm,
and they give him a tighter role, and he kinda finds his footing, his foundation, and then grows from there. He's got
mhm.
a lot of talent.
The Wizards traded away Denny Avdia, and they didn't get nothing for him. Everyone knew he
Right.
was, like, pretty good, but, his contract, I forget how much he makes, but it's not enough.
15 or
Yeah,
17, yeah.
and it declines, which is interesting. But in something his production curve went steeply up, right? Not that he's exactly
Also
the Danny Green story where he's starting on a championship team now, but it does seem like something about his change of scene turned him on.
Yeah, I think he kept working on his game. The MO on him was tireless worker. I don't know him, but I know Israelis who know him well. Just unbelievable worker and super fast and rugged and physical.
And he's fucking huge for his position too. Like I feel bad for
He's a
the
guard.
the defenders who have to like the defenders who can keep up with him.
Yeah,
Like he just looks like a monster compared to them. Like
yeah.
yeah,
And so yeah, so with Denny, if it, whenever your team's in contention again in the near future, if that would be the case, he's going to be probably your best player. And then people are going to say, "Well, can he really?" This is what I heard someone say the other day. Can he be your number one and number two? And I would say, just stop. Who was number one with the KG Pierce Ray Allen? I don't know.
yeah,
Depending on the series,
yeah,
literally.
yeah,
Who's the number one for Boston? Derek White's pretty special. So is Drew Holiday. So is Tatum. So is Brown when they were all together. Like,
yeah, for
what
sure.
does it matter? Let's
Doesn't
just get
matter.
a bunch of good players that can play well together.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, on just to this has nothing to do with this topic that we have today, but just on the Denny thing, you said something really interesting where you were like I think coming into last year, you were like, he's making the same moves that he used to make on the drive, but he's making them at full speed now.
Yeah.
And that struck me as like super brilliant insight. And you can see I watch commentators really struggle to explain how he gets to the rim like he does. And they're always like, well, he just has the ball more, or oh, he drives a lot. It's like, no, there's a reason he's cooking everybody. Like
Yeah.
he can weave through the whole offense because of something, but I think it's that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I deal with this with my players now. I have a player, a two-way player in the G League who doesn't. He's always no. I'm sorry. Not this is a separate one. I have an NBA player who against elite defenses, he's always one dribble short of what he needs to be. The last dribble he takes is loose,
Mhm.
and that's a skill. Is
Mhm.
so guess what he'll be doing all off season among other things. You got to make sure that last dribble is tight and
It's gotta be
hard
very tight.
so you
Yeah.
can control it. Yeah, that's just skill development right there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. I mean, it works. It's a very functional, like full speed, all the what are the moves that Denny uses? He's going like behind his back and he's doing some kind of lean shit. I don't know like what he does exactly, but he can do it all with his torso going about as
Well,
fast as it goes.
listen, we can address another player on your team.
Okay.
I mean, last year Donovan Clingan looked really clumsy.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
He's
Uh,
good.
My son was texting me, and this was college. He was watching a kid from Michigan named Mara. I could be wrong. Adam Mara, I think his name is. Really, they're still in the tournament.
I think
He's
he was in the
returning.
draft last year and then
Huh?
dropped out. I think Adamara was in the draft last year and then dropped out maybe.
That was Bona, Adeb Bona.
Okay, okay,
And Mara was at UCLA. I'm pretty sure that's his name.
okay.
And I just don't know college that well. Then he went to Michigan. He's very good for Michigan. He's gigantic. I don't think he's 7'4". By the way, I did speak to some people who recently played the Spurs who thought that Victor Wembanyama was now 7'6". I talked to three people who said that. Okay,
He's huge
Didn't say-
anyway, yeah.
yeah. So anyway, Mara is this very I don't know how 7'2", 7'3", tall white dude. And my son would call me like, "Do you see what Mara just said?" I said, "No, I wasn't watching." Like that, he ran full speed and was able to catch the ball and finish. Well, that's a skill that you could work on.
Mhm,
And some guys have it, and he's still in college. Some guys don't. Rudy Gobert probably couldn't do that when he was 18.
mhm,
He ended up being a very, very good, he's Hall of Fame player. And he had limitations, but they didn't quit on him early. You
no,
can't. You can't. You got to. Strength is matter, especially in this league where anything without your hands is pretty much legal. You can body. You can, like I said, a guy hip checked a guy the other day, and um, like there's some stuff going on, and you got to grow into that, and you have to be able to deal with that. Right? You've heard me say, you in the NBA, you have to do a dish out punishment or take it and not be affected. Allen Iverson was not dishing out physical punishment. He could absorb whatever you had to give him. Didn't phase him one bit.
mhm,
Didn't phase him one bit. But just because you can't do it as a rookie doesn't mean you can't do it ever.
mhm,
Now, if you don't develop over time, that's when teams get frustrated and move on from you. And maybe like Ben Mathen didn't work for Indiana, maybe it'll work for the Clippers. We'll see. We have no idea. It's too early. But
mhm,
we see that plenty of times. Guys just need a change of scenery. Chauncey Billups was a disappointment everywhere until he got with Larry Brown in Detroit.
mhm,
Yeah, Larry Brown was terrible for Darko. This is the fluidity that we're talking
mhm,
about.
mhm, mhm. Is there something I mean, so propensity to improve is probably the most valuable
Yeah,
asset for a prospect to have. Can you identify that at draft day? Like, is there a way to know who
yeah.
is likely to get better?
Yeah, there is. I don't think teams are very good at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that I when I take on clients, I'm studying that. is and you can track them from whenever they started playing, where you can track their numbers and see. And then you can talk to people who know them. I always say capacity for working, capacity for learning. And then I think I told you, one of my son's college coaches, Dan Jones, told me capacity to deal with distraction is a new
Mhm.
thing because of the social media age and phones and everything. The ability to focus
Mhm.
is something our this generation struggles with. This is not insight that I'm giving you. People have been writing books about this now and doing podcasts.
I'm aware. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we have kids too. We know,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that's something we look at too. Is maybe they're super smart, maybe they're really a sponge, but they can't focus. And I don't want to hear the ADHD, whatever. I don't really care what it is. Can they focus
Mhm.
and hear what you're saying and lock in and execute? And if they can't do it, can you teach it? You can, but it's hard.
So you're often in the situation of somebody's been connected to you somehow, you've seen some video, you can do some stats, and then you get on the phone with the player, and you guys have to sort of figure out if it's a connection.
Yeah.
What are you asking?
The first thing I want to know how if they're humble enough to realize it's not been working what they're doing. If they want to hire me because someone told them to hire me, that's not going to work. They have to recognize I'm not playing the way I want to play. This is not happening the way I want it to happen. I need some intervention. I need some help.
Mhm.
And so far anyway, I've been very good at hearing humility in their voice. Maybe one day I won't be able to hear it anymore. I'm only 61 now. So far, so good. But I have to hear humility in their voice and desire. And I have to believe that they're going to attack this with urgency
Mhm.
because this league, you're out of it fast.
Mhm.
Now, the higher you get picked, the better you get picked, the longer leash you have. The second round picks and the undrafted players have a much shorter leash. If they don't work out soon, they're heading overseas or fighting in the G League all the time. That's tough. The higher rated players of the draft get more chances to fail before they ultimately are kind of washed away, right? Walter Clayton Jr. I've only met one time. A year ago today was the best player in college basketball,
Mhm.
and then a year ago in 2 weeks, national champions, MVP, most outstanding player. He's now on a second team
Mhm.
in a year because Utah traded him for a good trade for Triple J
Mhm.
in Memphis. He's not shooting great in Memphis. I watched him play recently. I don't know if he's going to make it. This GM didn't draft him, and they're going to have a lottery pick, and they've got some good young guards also. It's a scary time, and so I'm not going to work with Walter necessarily, but he needs someone to believe in him and give him some guidance on how to get a foothold, or he'll be out of the league.
And perversely, there's a weird thing which if he were drafted at the end of the second round and had never been college player of the year and all this, like he might have an easier time psychologically being good on the phone with you. Right? Like
Correct.
he's been at the top of the mountain in some ways. So who knows? Maybe he's a special guy and a hard worker and it's easy for him to kind of pivot to the realization that he's on the bubble of going to Europe, right? But maybe not, right? I think it can be a disservice to a player to have early success.
Yeah, I think, and it's particularly case of Walter. He was a good player at Iona, but and I don't think he was their best player. And then when he went to Florida as a junior, he was a very good player, but he wasn't their best player. They had a kid named Zion Pullen, who's I think still in the G League now. He was a two-way player for a bit. Zion was first team SEC 2 years ago, not Walter. And then Walter just exploded last year. And people, including my brothers who love the Gators, they didn't think he was even a point guard. It was a mistake to let him play the point. Well, it turns out they were wrong. He was unbelievable last year.
Mhm.
And I'm a huge fan. I think he plays the right way and he competes and he can I mean, when he's shooting it, he's magical and he's more athletic as a football player, he's tough. It doesn't mean he's gonna get there.
Mhm.
And so I love those guys that know how to play their role when they first get to the league.
Mhm.
I'm very interested in those guys who have already played well in a role that they're going to have to serve in the NBA with that same role, and then maybe grow their role down the road. That's fine. The
Mhm.
guy that AJ Devance is the guy that's always been the man. Hasn't won a whole lot. The one at BYU, people think will probably go number one, number two. I don't know how it's going to work out because he's not going to be the best player on almost any team he goes to. And how does he handle that? Like, he maybe handles it great. You need to handle. Cooper, I think, has been terrific in Dallas. I mean, he's not their best player, not even close.
Mhm,
And then Kyrie maybe come back next year. That probably works out fine. Although
mhm,
if you're Kyrie, why would you want to be in Dallas? Maybe he would. Maybe he likes the idea of entering a young, talented player. I mean, Cooper's got Hall of Fame talent for sure. Yeah, I just like guys that know what does Pop say? That are over themselves.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
And so it's tougher, like, for AJ Devonta, like, it's just harder for him given that he's been the man
correct.
to be next year he's gonna be I don't know, like, we had a kind of a love affair with Leonard Miller, right? Who's
Yeah,
physically not so different, right?
no,
Like, Leonard Miller is physically super elite for an NBA
super
player.
gifted.
And, but will he make it as an NBA player? I don't know, but he has to tell himself that I'm at the beginning. I'm just starting to climb Everest now once he's in his first NBA uniform, right? Which is probably much easier for Leonard Miller to say to himself than it is for AJ Devonta.
I mean, yeah, the approach I take is always learn how to impact winning, set better screens, keep your man off the glass, race the court, blah blah.
Yeah.
Never about step back threes and
No.
not even second box jumpers for really young guys because
Yeah.
they'll get taken out of the game. Most
Yeah.
coaches don't like those. Well, most coaches don't like second box jumpers if you miss them.
Yeah, they're fine with it, you make it.
You make them, they cut 'em.
Yeah.
Yay! Process isn't great. Yeah. So, but you can't be missing them if you're one of those guys. You got to find ways to impact winning other ways and earn more of a leash to do other things and fail.
Yeah. Oh, here's totally unfair question that I did not prepare you for, but let's just try it for fun. Who's in this right now? Like, who's in the before stage of this in the NBA? Who's knocking around at the edge of the NBA like Danny Green was for a while, but, like, has the chance to be household name in
So I
2
wrote about him a couple weeks ago. We just mentioned Walter. Walter is no one. He's on no one's list for Rookie of the Year, and
Yeah.
I'm a fan. Um, but we just listed a couple weeks ago. We talked about Omax Prosper,
Yeah.
who, like Danny Green, although he was a first round pick, was let go by the Mavs, the brilliant Mavs in the Luka trade. All of a sudden, also let their first round pick. They traded to get him.
Yeah.
24th pick in the draft, I think. He's now starting for the Memphis Grizzlies. They're trying to lose. He's starting at the five. He's really a 3-4, and has turned himself into a 40% 3-point shooter. He's the hardest on the court. He's always playing the hardest. Um, I think he'll be a starter for them next to Zach Edey. I love him next to Zach Edey as a four. I have no idea what Memphis is thinking at all. Um, but I could see this guy sticking around for a long time and excelling potentially. But the Mavericks gave him up for nothing. They just waived him. They had to
Yeah.
pay him. He's getting paid twice. He got converted by the Grizzlies, and he's still getting paid his full salary this year for the Mavericks. That's a swing and a miss for Dallas, in my opinion.
They
Yeah,
Danny Greened him.
Danny Greenville. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And he
Yeah.
was a first round pick. Danny was early. I want to say Danny was 32 or 33 in the draft. He might have been 31. He might have been the
Yeah.
first pick, second round. So
Yeah.
not that much lower than Omax, I think, at 24. Prosper. But yeah, I think he's one of those guys that has a chance to kind of do what Danny did.
Okay. Anything else you wanna add?
Well, I like that we're talking about this topic.
Yeah.
It's appropriate, and y- as fans, if those that are listening, I don't judge a player early. Look at big picture stuff. Players can get better over. Did you hear me there?
I lost you for a second.
Yeah, you froze on me.
Yeah. It
Yeah, I
must
was just saying, you don't give up on players. You got to give them a chance to find their place, and you got to set your team to give them that chance. And that's where mostly there's a failure. The team fails to give this guy the proper runway he needs.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, this is our first little experiment on the Substack thing. What do you think?
I don't know. Let's see the product. I think
Let's see.
talking to you is normal.
Yeah, we do that a
Yeah,
lot.
let's see how it plays.
Okay.
I'll get my HD camera working too.
Okay. All
Not
right.
that I'm any better to look at. Probably better that it's blurry.
No, no, no. We'd rather see your like, I know you're putting a lot of work into that. You got the gray beard is cool. I think it's like, yeah, let's get that going. All right, man. Thank you, David.
See ya.